I watched the house across the street all night. I wrote this fast, dirty, not for a file. It is a mess. I know that. I am shaking again. My hand kept slipping on the page. I had my camera with a long lens, my phone, a little recorder, a flashlight, a thermos, gloves, and a small crowbar in the trunk. That is what I brought. I parked one car length back from the fire hydrant so I looked like I lived there. Window down 2 fingers. Cheap coffee. Dry mouth. It was a short block. 1 streetlight. Far end. The house was the only single story. Tan siding. 2 front windows with blinds. A little front porch with 3 steps. Black railing. A door with a deadbolt and a handle lock and no peephole. No car in the driveway. No curtains moving. Nothing strange at first. Client said his wife was there after a fight. He said the man she met was dangerous and kept her off the grid. He gave me the address, told me to confirm she was inside, take some photos if I could catch faces. He wired a retainer. Said he was in Ohio on a trip. His voice was steady. I believed him. I put it in the file as a domestic. At 21:10, the living room light came on. Not bright, not full, like a lamp. The blinds were down but not tight at the edges. I got 3 photos through the slit by the cord. The light went off right after. Fast. Too fast for someone to cross the room. I checked the shots on the screen. 2 were nothing but a smear of glare. One had a hint of a shape at the edge, like a shoulder in a dark shirt. No face. I adjusted the focus. It is always like that. You wait, and then it is 5 seconds of panic and you do your best. It never looks clean after. I texted the client that I saw a light and someone inside. He did not type back. I called him. Ring. He picked up. Did you see her? He said. His voice was wrong now, tight. Someone turned a light on and off, I said. Hard to say who. The call clicked and cut. No beep. It just died. I thought it was him hanging up. I don't know now. At 21:35, a man walking a dog stopped near my front bumper and looked at me. He wore a navy jacket and pajama pants. You watching 214? He said. He did not know me. I was 2 blocks from my office. I lied, like I always do. I said I was waiting on my cousin. He looked at the house, and then me. Nobody lives there, he said. They shut the power last month. A truck came. He said it plain. Then he pulled his dog when it sniffed near my tire. You should go. He doesn't like it when someone stays. Who? I said. The one who smiles. He said that and walked off. He did not look back. The dog kept glancing at the house and pulled to the other side of the street. I cursed and told myself the guy was nuts. But when he said power, I thought about the fast light. There is a trick, you see. Folks set a timer to make it look like home. Or there is a motion light that bleeds through from the porch. I got out and walked down the sidewalk like I wanted fresh air. I kept my eyes off the windows. I did not cross then. I did pass the side of the house slow like I was peeking at a number, and I saw the meter by the side steps. It had a red tag with a zip tie through it. The clear cover had a sticker that said disconnected. The wire from the street was there, but the meter was blank. No spin, no red LED. So the light wasn't from the house power. Either a battery lamp, a phone, or a generator inside. I went back to the car. I lifted the camera and took a wide shot of the front anyway so I could compare later. I zoomed on the window. I took one more. When I looked at the last one, I froze. It was my car in the reflection. It was me. That is normal. But next to my reflection, closer to the glass, there was another shape, lower, as if someone stood by the window facing in, not out. I went cold. The angle was wrong. It looked like a head turned hard. I tried to zoom. It blurred and pixelated. I told myself it was a tree trunk. It was a black shape by the sash. And then the light came again. 2 seconds. Off. 1 second. On. It made no sense. Too fast for someone to reach a lamp and back. I lifted the camera. I took 2. I lowered it. Something white appeared on the window. It was the fog of breath on the inside glass. 3 letters wrote themselves through the fog with a fingertip. I saw the streaks. D-A-N. They knew my name. They wrote my name. Dan. I stepped out of the car and stood in the street before I knew I had the door open. My neck burned. I was sure the neighbor had shouted it earlier, but he hadn't. I replayed his words and he hadn't used it. The client knew my name. But the client said he was in Ohio. He didn't say he was inside a dead house writing on glass. I went back into the car and locked the doors. I deleted the last 2 photos without thinking. I have done this work 20 years. You do not delete. You keep everything and sort later. I deleted because I did not want to see the letters again. I told myself it was to keep the camera roll clean. That was a lie. I took one of the porch steps and stopped. I deleted that too. Then I put the camera on the floor. I called the client again. It rang once and cut. I tried again. Call failed. I tried my friend in patrol. He used to answer even on overnights. It went to the squeal in the loop and then cut on me. I stared at my signal. It had bars. The light changed again behind the blinds. This time it was a longer glow, like someone held a phone up and turned it toward me, then away. Why would they know my name? That stuck. If it was the client, why pretend the wife? If it was someone else, how? I turned the key to start the engine. The dash ticked and went black. The first time it tried to catch and died. The second time, nothing. The interior light dimmed like a candle. The power went out in my car. I sat still and felt the cold bleed into the seat. I said out loud, "Don't be stupid. It's the battery. It's old." It wasn't that old. The radio would not even power. I tried the hazard. No click. I kept the key in my hand and did not know why. I took the flashlight and put it in my jacket pocket. I slid out and shut the door soft and started across the street. If they had written my name on the inside glass, someone was inside. If the power to the house was cut, they had a different source. My car dying told me 2 things. Either random bad timing or not random. I did not get past the middle line. Something like a watch ticked from the doorway. It was slow and clear. Tick, tick. I stood there like a fool, with my mouth open and looked up at the porch. The door was closed. No light. Tick. Like the second hand on a cheap wall clock, not a smooth sweep. It made the hair on my forearms stand. I know I sound like a kid. I pulled my jacket tight and went back to the car. I sat and told myself a plan. Wait. Call 911. If the call cut again, honk my horn. I had a crowbar in the trunk if I needed to deal with a person. I would not go inside alone. I am not a cop. That is what I told myself. I dialed 911. It rang once. A woman said, 911. What is your, and it cut in the middle of emergency. I tried again and got a recording from a different county. It said all operators were busy. Then it cut. The bars on the screen were there. I could look up the weather, but I could not talk to a person. I kept wiping my thumb on my jeans because the screen slicked up. At 22:05, a porch light came on 2 houses down, and a man came out in a bathrobe to smoke. I got out, waved, walked to him. He stepped back against his own door like I was selling something. I held my hands up so he could see I had nothing in them. "Hey," I said. "Sorry, I'm working. Do you know who lives across the street?" He flicked his eyes there and back. "Nobody," he said. "Someone wrote my name on the glass," I said. I don't know why I told him that. It came out. He looked at me like I was drunk. "I don't want any trouble," he said. He looked at my shoes. "We called a lot. They don't do anything." He shows up, stands on the porch, sometimes by the side door. He smiles. I won't look long. It feels like when the dog watches the door and you think there's someone there and there isn't. Only there is. He dragged on the cigarette and hacked. "You don't live here," he said. "Not a question." "No," I said. "You should go." "My car died," I said. He nodded like of course it did, and went inside and shut the door. He turned off his porch light. I crossed the street. My knees felt loose. I kept the light in my pocket. I put my hand on the rail. The paint was cold. I stood there and listened. It was quiet. The ticking was gone. The window was fogged again. New letters wrote in the fog. S-T-A-Y. It was all caps. The A was crooked. It made me think the person was either left-handed or writing with their offhand. I looked at the edges of the blinds. The light behind them pulsed faintly. I leaned to the side to look through the 2 millimeters of glass where the slats did not touch. I saw a white rectangle, bright and then dark. A phone screen or a battery lantern being tilted. When it went bright again, I saw the edge of a palm holding it. It was close to the glass, a few inches. The skin looked dry. It had short, square nails. The knuckles were flat against the phone case. That light had been the source the whole time, not a lamp. A phone someone was aiming at me. I went to the door. I tried the handle out of habit. It did not turn. The deadbolt was locked, which I had seen from the street because the tongue sits proud. I did not knock. I stood close and listened. I heard it then again. Tick. From the other side of the door. Not loud. Like a watch by an ear. I stepped back off the porch. The air felt thin. I went down the steps fast. I was halfway across the street when my phone buzzed. A number showed with no name. It was the client's number. I answered. "Stop," he said. It sounded quiet, like he had the phone in a closet. "Dan, listen. That is not my wife." I lied. "That's not my house." I needed to know if he was still there. His voice shook. "You need to get away. Don't look at his teeth. Don't say anything." The line cut. A second later, a text from the same number came through. It was an address same as I was at, and a timestamp from last week. Then another text. A photo. It was the house. There was a man in the doorway, smiling, in the middle of the night. The photo was from the sidewalk. It looked like my angle now. I deleted it without thinking. It made me feel like I swallowed ice. I do not like this part. I keep stopping and going back and writing it again. I decided to go around back and see a second angle. That was my thinking. If he stood by the front window, maybe I could get a side view through the kitchen and see if there was a person or a dummy. I went down the sidewalk, turned at the fence gap. The path to the back was narrow. Wet leaves, trash can on the side. I used the light then and kept it aimed low. I did not want to throw a beam on the windows. I hate saying it, but I also wanted to keep my light on because I felt stupid in the dark. Back there, the grass was high and stiff. The back door had a little square window. It was fogged. I did not see letters. I stood on the second step and looked over my shoulder. My car was not visible from there. I did see the end of the block. It was quiet. I put my ear to the back door. The tick was louder. Tick. Tick. I heard a tiny click like a jaw moving. It made me think of someone chewing. I hated that. I hated that my mind did that. I wanted to go. Then the handle moved under my hand a fraction. It was locked. The next second, the handle went slack. The latch tongue pulled in. It opened on its own a 1/4 inch. The deadbolt was still set, but the handle lock clicked and was free. I did not pull it open. I stepped back and my shoe squeaked on the wet step. It was a stupid small sound, and somehow it made me feel like I had told the house where I was. I left the back and went to the side alley and came out on the street. At the corner, I got a new idea. I could go up to the neighbor's upstairs porch across and get a higher angle down through the top slats. It would be a clean shot. I told myself that as if I were still doing a normal job. I was almost to my car when I saw the shape by my passenger door. The man stood there like he had been waiting for a bus. He wore a gray coat, too thin for the cold, dark pants, cheap black shoes that squeaked when he shifted. He was not tall. He had clean hair, combed back, no part. His head looked too still on his neck. He turned, slow, like his neck was a stiff rope and it hurt to move. He looked right at me. His smile was wide. It went out to the corners like a line someone had drawn. His lip line was too even, like a straight cut. It made the gums show. The gums were pale, almost the same color as his teeth. The teeth were small and there were a lot of them, too many, packed. They did not look fake. They looked like baby teeth in an adult mouth. His eyelids were thin. You could see the red at the edges. He blinked slow, like the lids wanted to stick. When he closed them, they took an extra beat to open. There was a tiny click from his jaw hinge when he shifted his smile. The tendons in his neck stood out like cords. His nails were short and square. His breath smelled like metal, old coins held in a warm hand. I could hear a second hand ticking, soft, steady. He had a cheap watch on his wrist, and the tick was loud in the air. Or it was something else ticking, and I told myself it was a watch, so I did not have to ask. "Hello," I said, because my mouth said it. It came out quiet. He didn't speak. He kept smiling. He looked down at my passenger door. It was unlocked. I remember now that I locked the car when I get out. It was unlocked without me touching it. He put his hand on the handle like he was going to open it. He looked back at me and blinked the slow blink. The jaw clicked. He tilted his head. The watch ticked, ticked, ticked. I said, "I'm leaving." My voice cracked and I hated that, too. I put my hands up like an idiot to show I had nothing. He took one step like a lunge and I jumped back. His shoe squeaked. He breathed in through his teeth. The breath whistle was thin. He leaned toward the open crack by the top of the window and breathed on it and wrote something with his finger on the inside of my passenger glass. From where I was, I could not see the letters. I moved to the side and the letters came through in a line. DONTBREATHE. He left out the apostrophe. He looked at me while his finger made the letters. He blinked slow and the watch ticked. He did not stop smiling. The gum stayed pale. I stepped back. I ran the long way around the car and opened the driver's door and slid in and locked it and pulled the handle to make sure. He stood 2 feet away and watched me fumble. He tilted his head again, like an animal checking a sound. His jaw clicked. He put his hand flat on the glass by my face. It was cold through the pane. His nails made a faint scratch on the glass. He watched me breathe. I tried to breathe small. His breath fogged his side again, and he wrote another word. HIDE. I hit the starter out of habit. Nothing. The dash stayed dead. I looked up and he had his ear against the small gap my window had open for air. He tilted so the opening lined with his ear canal. He listened to my breath. He smiled with his mouth open now. I saw rows of those small teeth. He faced the gap and breathed back in, and I got a mouth of that metal air. I slapped the window button. It went up an inch and stopped. Dead. He did not flinch, even when it caught a hair on his temple. He pulled it free gently. He did not get mad. He did not move fast. The watch ticked. I grabbed the flashlight and hit it against the dash to get a strong beam and shined it in his face. He did not blink at the light. His eyes watered a little, which made them look worse. I swung the flashlight at the glass and yelled. He tilted his head back and smiled wider. The jaw click went louder, like it snapped in the hinge. The tendons stood full. The breath came and I could taste it. He put his hand low on the door like he was going to pry it. I don't know what moved him back. Maybe the porch at 212 clicked. Maybe he saw the neighbor peeking through the blinds. He looked past me at the house. The watch ticked. He smiled the same, and then he walked backward toward 214 like he was on a line. He kept facing me while he walked. His shoes squeaked on the damp street. He stepped up the 3 porch steps without looking and put his hand on the knob. He did not look down. He pulled. The deadbolt was set. He leaned in like he was listening through the door. He blinked slow. He turned his head and looked at me. He did not push harder. He breathed on the house glass and wrote something from inside. It looked wrong until I realized he was writing on my side, not the house side. He stood outside and still the letters formed from within. That part 1 cannot fix in my head. The 3 letters were there anyway. G-O. I did not stay to watch. I climbed over the center console into the passenger seat, popped the glove box, grabbed the spare phone I bring when a client feels slippery. I did not think to use it before, and that was stupid. I crawled out the passenger side and ran. I did not run for the neighbor's house. I ran to the end of the block and around, and 2 more blocks to my office. I kept looking over my shoulder. I did not see him follow. I heard a squeak once, and then only my own breath. I went in my office and locked the door, and put the chair under the knob. It is not a strong door. I sat at my desk and tried the spare phone. It connected. I called 911. I made it to the address and the word intruder. The line popped, and the dispatcher went thin and then gone. The phone stayed lit. It was like someone put a finger over the mouth. I texted my friend in patrol. The dots showed he was typing. Then they went away. I wiped the inside of my office window with my palm. It fogged in a small patch because it was warm inside, cold out. I stared at the glass until my eyes blurred. It stayed clear. For a minute it was quiet. I thought I made it in time. I thought it would be fine now that it was outside air between us, not car air. My clock on the wall ticked. It has a real hand, not a sweep. I had never noticed it was that loud until that night. It ticked and kept time with my heart. I pulled the clock off the wall and put it in the drawer. The drawer did not muffle it. I took the batteries out. It went silent. The silence made me shake worse. My hands were damp and I wiped them on my pants and then wiped the pen. It slipped. I don't know when I started writing this. It could have been 5 minutes after, maybe an hour. I keep looking up. I keep seeing nothing. Then something small changes, and I see that like it is a flare. At some point, somebody tried my office door. Slow. Not a bang. A try. The chair moved an inch. The knob turned a quarter and held. I waited and held the crowbar. He did not push. The knob turned back to true like a precise hand placed it gently. There was breathing in the hall after. Not heavy. Regular. Then the breath went away. When it was quiet again, I checked the window. There was fog on the glass. It was on the inside pane. I watched it move. A finger wrote S-I-T. I stepped back and my chair leg caught on the rug, and I went down stupid and hit my elbow. The fog letters dripped a little. Then a new line formed. D-O-W-N. I stood up. I did not sit. I took the camera without thinking and lifted it, aimed at the window, and took 3 photos. The flash went off because I had switched it, and that was a mistake. The light hit the glass and made my own face bright, and I saw something else behind me in that reflection. His lip line at the edge of the wood of my half-open closet door, even and straight. His eyelids thin in the sliver of dark. I dropped the camera. I picked it up and deleted the last 3 shots. I don't need a reason for that. I couldn't keep them. Adamom. I don't think he comes in if you look right at him. That is the only thing I have that feels like a rule. The neighbor said he stands still and smiles. He stood and smiled at me and did not reach in. He waited for me to make a mistake. When the door went slack at the back step, it opened on its own. That was me at the handle. When my car died, it was because I left the lights on. That is what a sane person would say. Only I didn't. The dome light never came on. The horn didn't work. That's too many things at once. The last thing. I have to put it here because if I leave it out, I'll make it bigger. There was a sound out in the hall just now. Shoes. They squeaked on the thin carpet. Not a lot. A small, wet squeak, like a supermarket floor. It went by and stopped by my door. I held my breath. The second hand ticked again, but I had taken the batteries out. It was not my clock. It was right outside the door, steady, patient. Tick, tick. It is slow. It does not speed up. It keeps the same time. I put the crowbar down to write this because my hand would not stop shaking with it. I am going to put this behind the books in the top file shelf if I get 2 minutes where he moves past. It won't matter. I know that now. It is like writing a note and sticking it under the car seat and thinking the person will not look. I wish I could tell you not to take his calls, not to look at the windows. Do not lift a camera. Do not lean in. But it won't help. If you are close enough to read this, you already heard the watch. You already smelled the metal. You already know his jaw clicks when he leans his head. The image I cannot stop seeing is the way his lips stayed perfect when the letters formed on the glass behind him, like his smile did not belong to his face but was set there, straight as a ruler, and his eyes looked past it and blinked slow, and he listened to me breathe like that was what he wanted. That and the little tick in the dark outside the door. It is still there. It is not loud. It will not go away. Nobody will ever read this, because they won't live long enough to hide it. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. It really helps the channel. And if you're not too scared yet, check out one of the other stories waiting for you. See you in the next one.